I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, the terrorist behind a fatal Jerusalem terror attack is found fit to stand trial. Israel hosts the Forbes 30 Under 30 event for the second time in a row, and we'll reveal why the United Nations is on a mission to recruit Israeli doctors. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. One person has been wounded in a car ramming attack in the West Bank today. The terror incident took place at the Etzion block junction just south of Jerusalem. Soldiers at the scene shot and neutralized the driver of the vehicle. The army has not yet released any information about the condition of the assailant, but is claiming that he was not killed. The victim is reportedly around 60 years old and was taken to Jerusalem Hospital with light wounds to his head. The Palestinian assailant who stabbed a British woman to death last week has been ruled fit to stand trial. Last Friday, 57-year-old Jamil Tamimi from East Jerusalem stabbed Hannah Bladon to death on the Jerusalem light rail. Bladon was an exchange student in a program at Hebrew University. Tamimi told police that he wanted to die and had attacked Bladon in hopes that the soldier standing next to her would kill him. Earlier that morning, Tamimi had been released from a mental health facility in northern Israel. He had then traveled to Jerusalem to visit his family, who ultimately refused to see him because he had been convicted of sexually abusing his own daughter. The family of his victim, Hannah Bladon, says that she was the most caring, sensitive, and compassionate daughter you could ever wish for. Just prior to her death, she had given up her seat on the crowded light rail to a mother and her newborn. Yesterday evening, England's Derby County Soccer Club held a minute of silence before its game in honor of Bladon, who had long been a diehard fan. Now, they say that age is just a number, something I personally believe, but this month that's clearer than ever in the Holy Land. Check this out. What's more competitive than getting into Harvard Business School or Stanford University? It turns out getting yourself onto the Forbes 30 Under 30 list.
This is the Forbes 30 Under 30 from Israel.
Hey, I'm Partha, and I made the Forbes list for making crutches that don't hurt your armpits.
Hi, I'm Michael Sifu Huang. I'm on the Forbes list of art and style, and I founded a museum in Beijing.
We connect students to tutors via text messaging for homework help, and I'm on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list for education.
Hi, my name is André Laurenceau, and I'm on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list for pioneering virtual reality and live sports together. So you have the game in front of you, and so if you look behind the goalpost, there's a little white dot.
Okay.
You can look at it, and it'll teleport you behind the goal.
So
just
it's just looking at it. I don't touch it. Wow, this is unbelievable.
You got it?
All of the faces you just saw are under 30 years old, but they're some of the biggest game changers on the planet. They're the 4% of over 15,000 people that have been selected for the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, which brings together the world's youngest, most innovative minds.
For the first 10 million years of human history, to start something of significance, you needed to be older. Nobody would take a 25-year-old seriously even 15 years ago trying to raise money. This is the first time in human history that it not only is a playing field level, but it's actual advantage to be young.
I make stop motion animation videos, so animated videos. So brands come to me if they have like a campaign or a product they want me to promote. I used to sell cars like 4 years ago, and I just made a video on an app called Vine. It got blown out. Like, everyone loved it. The people that made Vine loved it. CNN picked it up. Fox Media picked it up. Mashable wrote an article about me, and brands started reaching out to me. I was like, okay, maybe I can do this for a living. So I quit my job of selling cars, and yeah.
The power of the internet, people, the power of the internet.
It's amazing. Like I tell people, my life changed because of 6 seconds.
lots of celebrities have made it onto this year's list also. From basketball star Amari Stoudemire to plus-size supermodel Ashley Graham, who's on a mission to change how the world views female bodies.
I've literally just been doing what I feel that I'm supposed to do, just modeling, talking to women about who they are, who they want to be, being comfortable in their own skin. And I think social media gave me a voice, but I also think that just now is the time. Women want to hear from someone who's just comfortable with who they are and isn't afraid of a little back fat or cellulite.
This year, the Forbes 30 Under 30 event happens to be in Israel, and over 600 recipients from over 30 different countries will be exploring the country while connecting their ideas.
This is the home of startups. Israel, in terms of the stats, it's one startup here every 8 hours. There's one startup for every 2,000 people. So what better place to bring startup founders than Startup Nation?
So how can you get yourself on the Forbes list? Social media star Tyler Oakley has made millions from a career started on YouTube, and he has all of the advice.
I think the most important thing is to recognize what you want in life and what you value and what you bring to the world, what only you can do, and chase that.
Should you worry about your age?
No, never. We 18-year-olds, we don't worry about that.
All right. Turning to a more upsetting story, unfortunately, this morning, Islamic State gunmen killed an Egyptian policeman and wounded 4 others outside of St. Catherine's Monastery in southern Sinai, a popular tourist destination for foreigners and Israelis alike. ILTV's Aaron Porras has more on this story. Aaron, how was this attack carried out?
Well, the Islamic State attackers opened fire from an elevated hilltop overlooking the police checkpoint located right next to the monastery.
The attack comes little over a week after the Islamic State bombed 2 Coptic churches on Palm Sunday, killing 45 people and prompting the Egyptian president to declare a 3-month state of emergency. He then increased security for vital installations, including churches across Egypt. The Sinai Peninsula is a popular destination for tourists, which is just over Israel's border. But lately, tourism has been waning because of increased attacks from the Islamic State.
So, meanwhile, Aaron, it looks like the Israeli Tapa crossing into the Egyptian Sinai will remain closed to the Israelis, according to Israeli Counterterrorism Bureau. Tell us more about that.
Well, the crossing's been closed since Monday, April 10th, which was just before Passover began. Originally, it was closed ahead of the holiday for fears that there were terror attacks that would either target or impact Israeli tourists who were going into the Sinai. The Counterterrorism Bureau has stated that the situation has not gotten any better, which is why they are continuing to keep the Taba crossing closed.
Although not everybody's happy about it.
Exactly, and thus they decided not to reopen the crossing yet until further information comes out.
All right, well, let's check out your report.
A group of Israelis attempted to overturn the closing, citing violations to civil liberties. But the High Court of Justice sided with the CTB, saying the threat was genuine, and therefore the government had the authority to close the passage. Roughly 17,000 Israelis have visited the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt since January, but it seems like any future travel plans may have to be canceled for the time being. The CTB said it would review the closure, quote, continuously over the next few days in accordance with the situation, end quote.
Joining me today in the studio to discuss the ongoing prisoner strike in Israel is David Bedain, director of the Center for Near East Policy Research. David has spent the last 30 years as a journalist writing about the evolution of the Palestinian Authority and the incarceration of Palestinian prisoners within Israel. Thank you so much for coming in. All right, so let's begin. Now, one of the central demands of the prisoners we're hearing about is the abolishment of detention without trial. How many Palestinians are currently incarcerated without being charged right now?
There's about 4,000 who are out there who are not charged at this point. It's like a military situation where they're combatants and they're taken as not exactly as prisoners of war, but they're being held until their status can be cleared. The other thousands are very clearly have already been through the process of trial. And they've faced fair trials. The pictures you're showing are pictures that we took in the prisons while we were interviewing them, and they were very, very clearly very, how should I say, unrepented killers and attempted killers who want to be awarded. They become, in a sense, heroes in the Palestinian Authority, and that's the real issue: the fact that someone can become a killer a mass murderer, a killer of innocents, and all of a sudden he becomes a...
Now, how long does it take until the people who are put into jail without trial receive a trial?
There's no one answer on that. Everything has to do with security concerns. The key thing is to try to, I'm not a military person, you can talk to security people, I'm a journalist and social worker. But you can take a look at what happens is that they try to keep them as far as possible away from any possibility of repeating their crimes. We're basically dealing here with the issue of recidivism. Recidivism is the possibility that a killer or any kind of criminal can do it again. And Israel signed on an international agreements, which I knew very well about as a social worker, that they're not allowed to let go people unless they have kind of a security certificate, that kind of an assurance that they're not going to kill again.
Now, I mean, what civil rights do Palestinians have when arrested in the West Bank and under military law as opposed to an Israeli civil law?
First of all, there's 28 organizations that are currently monitoring issues of civil liberties of all kinds of Palestinians. And it's something that there's no other country, no other people that have as much monitoring of their situation. There's no clear answer to your question. That's why, in terms of what is their exact civil liberties, but in terms of the people monitoring them, it's unbelievable. And very often they monitor them without asking, well, what did you do to be here? And the assumption that they're just there because they, as a matter of fact, people who have been freed from prison often go and speak for groups around the world, certainly around Israel, and we were hanging signs saying peace now. Whereas the actuality is that there's now 9,200 killers on the streets of Israel who have served time, who have been sentenced to life imprisonment, and who are out there who have been exchanged in exchanges.
Now, in your personal opinion, can Palestinian prisoners be rehabilitated? What means, if we were to give into some of the demands that we're seeing right now, such as access to higher education or more family visits, would that help facilitate rehabilitation?
There are 484, right now, 484 Arabs who are serving either life imprisonment or very long imprisonments who are right now taking courses in universities. That doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. Now, in terms of rehabilitation and a change, if tomorrow morning the PLO and the Palestinian Authority were to cancel their war against Israel, we'd have a different situation. But we're right now in the middle of a war. The war continues. It's certainly a low-intensity war. And on that basis, I, as a social work professional who have interviewed tens of these people in jail, I wouldn't say that any of these people would get a kind of a security certificate to get out and say, hey, they're not going to kill again. And that's one of the problems we face, because they say openly that when we get out, and if we get out, we're going to kill again. No normal Western society would allow that to happen.
Now, do you believe that settlers who attack Palestinians with stones, just like Palestinians attacking settlers with stones, should face the same sort of legal proceedings as Palestinians that are charged with the same offenses?
There is no such thing as Jews attacking Arabs like Arabs attack Jews. It doesn't exist. And I would be the first one. I would be the first one as a Jew, as a social worker, as a regular person in Israel, to object to anything which would be how shall I say, which would violate human rights. But here you have a situation of an organized situation. There was back in 1988, Daoud Kutab, the prominent Palestinian journalist, wrote a very important piece called "Profile of the Stone Throwers," how we have to put children on the front lines. And what our agency has been doing, Center for Near East Policy Research, we've been filming youngsters being trained not only to throw stones, but also to use guns. And that is a violation of children's rights. Putting them on the front lines with guns, where many of them will probably be killed in the next round of fighting, that is a violation of human rights. So that's what we have to be addressing ourselves to. And the manipulation of people in jail is something else.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time.
Pleased to be here, and thank you.
Israel's new law preventing Israel boycotters from entering the state is now in effect, and one activist is so mad he was turned away on Easter that he's now calling on his home state of Chile to retaliate by banning Israelis. The prospective tourist is Anwar Majlouf, who's a Chilean citizen of Palestinian descent. Israeli officials wouldn't let him in on April 10th because he's also the executive director of the Palestinian Federation of Chile. Israeli Minister of Strategic Affairs Gilad Erdan is calling Majlouf a major activist with the boycott, divestments, and sanctions movement, and says his organization has been trying to inflict significant harm on the Jewish state. The Chilean activist is now demanding Santiago bar all Israeli tourism to his country. He's even getting some support from one local senator who's also of Arab descent. About 15,000 Jews live in Chile, although it's home to 300,000 Palestinians, which is the largest community outside of the Arab world. This past January, a young gay Jewish man was attacked at a Santiago park with razors by 3 neo-Nazis for wearing a T-shirt bearing the flag of Israel. From sundown this coming Sunday to sunset on Monday, Israelis will be marking Holocaust Remembrance Day, all in tribute to the 6 million Jews who perished during World War II. And now additional evidence has just come to light showing that the Allies were well aware of the Nazi atrocities but did little to stop the bloodshed.
The United Nations just released documents it says haven't been seen in more than 70 years. These papers show that the United States, Russia, and the United Kingdom were already preparing war crime indictments against Adolf Hitler and other top Nazis in 1942. That was based on documentation the Allies obtained that at least 2 million European Jews had already been murdered, and the Third Reich was planning on massacring millions more. Today, many Jews and their supporters are haunted by the fact that despite this knowledge, none of the powers did anything to stop the attempted genocide. Many scholars believe this was due to anti-Semitism at the State Department and in Britain, fear of a possible flood of Jewish refugees, or even concerns of preserving economic ties with post-war Germany. The UN only released the Holocaust archive to the public, by the way, because of pressure from the former U.S. ambassador to the world body, Samantha Power.
The Israeli Finance Minister Moshe Kahlon has just announced a groundbreaking set of tax breaks and benefits for working-class families, but the news isn't rubbing everybody the right way. It turns out the Israeli Prime Minister was never briefed about the plan and surprisingly wasn't invited to the press conference where Kahlon presented the deal. The $1.1 billion package includes subsidies for after-school education, additional tax credits for working parents, and higher income supplements for low-income earners. Plus, it helps equalize the tax credits for working fathers and mothers and provides tax cuts on items like children's clothing, shoes, and cell phones. Even better, the disability benefits for the more than 200,000 Israelis who receive financial assistance will be increased by 50% per month. The new benefits are aimed at increasing the net income of poor and middle-class working families by thousands of shekels a year, but the finance minister says the initiative is not a snub to the governing coalition. Kahlon claims it's a continuation of government policy, which is why he didn't feel the need to update anybody about the plan. At the same time, the minister is accusing both Netanyahu and his political rival Yair Lapid of failing to have helped the middle class during their time working as finance ministers. Israel is a country on the Mediterranean coast, so you can bet that fish are often on the menu. The issue is that global supply is currently having trouble keeping up with the demand. Well, one Israeli company is now hoping to help bridge the gap. Joining me in the studio is Yossi Melchner, the CEO of Gili Ocean Technology Ltd, to tell us about the world's first open sea fish farming system called the Subflex. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for hosting me.
All right, so tell us a little bit about the Subflex. What is an open sea fish farm?
An open sea fish farm, it's a fish farm that located 15 kilometers offshore, deep water condition, super water condition. We have high oxygen saturation. It's the natural habitat for fish farming. But in the open ocean, we do have storms, we have high energy, we have waves, so we need a special technology to do farming in the open ocean side.
Of course.
All right.
Now tell us, how does this technology work? What is a normal, you said a normal fish farm is usually not in the ocean because of the difficulties that you face with the sea, correct?
A normal fish farm usually located in sheltered areas,
right.
Bays, fjords. They have water quality, medium water quality. Mm-hmm. The water exchange is medium. At the open ocean, we have strong currents. We have a lot of water exchange. So the system designed in a way that we can have all those benefits. The system made of 3 main features. The first one is a single point mooring. The system can rotate 360 degrees around the mooring unit, and by doing that, we're dispersing the unconsumed fish feed and excessive feeding and organic matter over a large area. By doing the 360 degrees, we're also facing the current with the narrow side of the system. So we are environmentally, and we are using the natural currents in the open ocean.
Right, so tell us a little bit more about the benefits of an open sea farm over one that's on land.
Okay, again, because the water quality is ideal for fish cultivations, we can grow fish faster. We can grow them healthier. We don't need to use antibiotics because we have superb water quality, so the parasites almost don't exist in the open ocean. So because we grow them faster, we can stock them in much more density in single array. So we can have economically cost-effective system, cost-effective project.
And I'm assuming that this is more encouragement to protect our oceans as well, if we know that we can be producing more fish.
Of course.
That's an unfortunate thing to say, but that's just the reality of it.
Of course, you know, farming is fish, the marine protein. It's the only protein that we all already, and till now, we are hunting. We're fishing. We don't fish. We don't hunt cows. We don't hunt sheep. We don't hunt anything else. But fish, we still do fishing. So that's why aquaculture is coming into the picture. And we bring the next stage of aquaculture, open ocean aquaculture, ultimate habitat, no harming the environment, and a superb and premium product.
Now, what is next for the company?
For the company established in 2010 together with the High Center. High Center is an incubator, high-tech incubator in Haifa, and together we established Gili Ocean Technology based on Supplex unique knowledge and technology. Recently, we collaborate with a major fund and established a company named Bereshit Aquaculture. And right now we're building the largest system in the world, here in the coast of Israel, 15 kilometers offshore the coast of Ashdod. And our target in Bereshit is to supply premium product fish, premium protein to the Israeli market.
Great. Well, it seems like you guys have really created an alternative that can function for a lifetime, and hopefully it's also going to be helping our environment and helping us care more about our oceans than we do today. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much. Thank you for asking me.
All right, despite the shaky relations between the United Nations and Israel, the UN is now reaching out to the Jewish state's top medical professionals to help the world.
The United Nations is about to send a special delegation to the Jewish state geared at recruiting as many qualified candidates as possible. Female physicians are especially being welcomed. They'll be offered critical positions among the peacekeeping forces deployed in some of the world's most contentious areas. There is a specific interest in Israeli doctors because of their vast experience in the field and emergency services. Israel's UN ambassador Dani Danan says the human capital in Israel is the secret to the nation's success, and that there's a particular pride in the many women who lead this profession. All candidates should have more than 5 years of experience and speak English or French. The most sought-after physicians should be emergency medicine and trauma specialists or pediatricians and psychiatrists. Just this past November, the UN's World Health Organization recognized the Israeli Army's field hospital as the best in the entire world. The team is frequently deployed abroad to help other countries recover from natural disasters and other catastrophes. In fact, Israeli doctors with the Israel Humanitarian Relief Organization are on the ground right now in Peru and Colombia, supplying aid, medical treatment, and counseling to the victims of the recent massive floods and mudslides in both Latin American nations.
The Hebrew word of the day is brought to you by the University of Haifa, Hebrew Summer Ulpan, open to everyone.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. We've all heard of how Israelis are usually among the first to volunteer around the world to give support and help in any way that they can. That's why today's word is tmicha, meaning support or aid. Israel isn't the only government that offers tmicha or support, but it seems to do it often. The United Nations is trying to recruit Israeli doctors to gain their tmicha on behalf of the world body. In fact, the Israeli Defense Forces tomchim or support wounded Syrians crossing into Israel in the north every night. Just remember that you don't have to be in the army or in a public office to litmoch or to support causes important to you. You can offer your tmicha in the form of donations. You can donate money, food, time, and more, and you can even just raise awareness to some pressing issues. So no matter what it is or how small it may feel to you, keep in mind that every tmicha counts. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight should be clear to partly cloudy with a low of 56 or 13 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow you can expect clear skies with little to no change in temperatures and an expected high of 79 or 26 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.67 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at ILTV.tv. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.